Hi guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Budget Scrambler build. So everything is pretty structurally sound now and we could ride it like this if we wanted to. But we're going for road legality and we want to see it at night. I want Ellie to be able to see it at night. So today we're going to go about putting a headlight on, a brake light, some indicators, and then I think it's probably time we give her a little test ride. So first off, I just want to say a big thanks. I'm up to 41 subscribers now, and I've been in isolation for 3 weeks, which means not leaving the house, and that's really helped get me through. So thanks for that, and I hope you'll pick up something from it and enjoy watching it as well. But anyway, on to lighting. So for the front, I've actually managed to sort of assemble a headlight out of various spares I had in my spares box. So that's meant I've saved money there. I haven't had to spend anything. It's actually a bottom mount base. The headlight that came on here was a side mount one, which means it attaches to the fork stanchions. I don't really like the way they look, so I'm going to make up a small mount that I can weld onto the front of the yokes here, and I should be able to mount the headlight that way. Once it's mounted, I'll have to start thinking about wiring, but that's not going to be an issue for now because I'm not going to wire the lights in until I reassemble it. I'm going to have to strip it down for painting at some point, and so I'm going to tackle all the wiring on reassembly. Okay, so I've been over to the Offcut bin again, and I found this nice bit of flat bar, which is about 3 or 4 mil thick. So it's going to be plenty strong enough to support the leverage of the headlight when the bike's vibrating and you're going over rocks, things like that. The other thing I've done is made up another paper template. So this is something you've seen me do the whole way throughout this build, and it's a great way of just working out how things are going to fit before you start chopping stuff. So I'm going to transfer that to there and cut it out. After that, I'll be able to drill a hole through it, which I'll be able to mount the headlight on. Then I'll be able to weld it onto the fork yokes, and we should have a fairly stable headlight platform. So I've got my little bracket sorted out now, I've got my hole drilled. This Allen bolt basically passes through there and into the bottom of the headlamp. So now what I'll be able to do is take this over to the bike and position this on the lower fork crown. So I'll do the usual and I'll just do a little tack weld, stand back, and if I need to bend it into place I can. Then I'll do the final welding and I should have a headlamp all sorted, nice and sturdy. So our front headlight is fitted now, and all of a sudden it's starting to look a bit more like a proper motorcycle. So next up what we're going to be doing is moving on to the brake light. Now for that I've got something that really small, it's about 20 quid, it's a Bates replica. It's also really bright because it's LED, and I've had good experience with them. So we're going to go with that. This is a pretty simple job. All it's going to involve is drilling 2 holes in the centre of the mudguard where I want to fit it. So I'm going to do that, and then after that I can start working out where I'm going to fit the indicators. So, simple as that, job done. I've mounted the brake light, which means we need to move on to indicators now. I've bought these cheap and cheerful Chinese aluminium indicators. It's 20 quid for 4 and they will do the job. So we're going to start thinking about mounting them. I'm not actually going to mount the front ones in this episode because I haven't quite decided how I want to fit them on there yet. But I have decided on the rear. So we're going to start with those. Right, so I'm not a huge fan of indicators. I usually ride older bikes that don't need them and I prefer life without them. But this is a modern bike, it requires them by law, and also I think Ellie would probably quite like them on there as well. So if you cast your mind back a few episodes, you remember I added in this gusset here. That's going to be really handy because it's going to allow us to mount these indicators in a way where they look pretty flush and a little bit incognito. So what I've done is I've made up another lug, the exact same way as how I attached the front mudguard and also the bash guard as well. So I just spun up a little bit of metal on the lathe, drilled it out and tapped a thread. You could do it all with a drill and a tap if you wanted to, so you don't really require a lathe to do that, but it's a lot easier. So my plan of action is to drill a hole through here, which will allow me to slide the lug through. Then the indicators will thread into the lug and I can lock them using this lock nut here. The only thing we've got to watch for is, as we'll be spinning the indicators to tighten it up, we're not going to hit the shock or anything like that. Anyway, I'm going to go on now, I'm going to drill my holes through here, mount the lugs and weld it all in place. So we've got our rear indicators mounted now and I'm thinking about taking it for a test ride. So there's one last thing I want to do before I go and check everything's tight and take it out. That is the ignition barrel. So the one that was on there when it came had cracked, which is no good. It let water in and all sorts of things. So I've got this new one, 8 quid on eBay, really simple. You just plug it straight in. And it basically mounts through a hole. So I'm going to use this step drill now, which basically it drills a bigger hole at each step. And I'm going to use it to drill out a portion here, and I should be able to pass this through from the other side and then do it up nice and tight. So I fitted the ignition and I wired it up and I've tested it and we're good to go. So I'm going to go over and grab my helmet, grab my GoPro, and I think we're going to have a little test ride around the yard. was quite the test ride. As you can see, things got a little bit out of hand. I didn't realise it was going to be that muddy down there, and by the time it got a little bit of mud on there, I thought I may as well give it a proper test and see how it scrambles. And I'm really impressed. I haven't had that much fun off-road on a bike in I don't know how long, and I think it's going to be great for Ellie to hone her skills in off-road. So that rounds us off for today's episode. Now we're at the stage where I'm going to strip it down and we start thinking about paint. We're going to do some filler on the tank, on the side panels, and get everything prepped. But first off, I'm going to need to do a little clean. So I'm going to get this cleaned, and hopefully I'll see you in episode 8.